Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Miriello Show. I hope your Thursday evening is going well. Mine is going well. How about yours, Sarah? Is it going well?
Yes, it's going so well, just in a day of work and school.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so happy that you came. I saw that you invited me to this really interesting event tomorrow about Bill 21, and I
Yeah.
thought it would be a good idea to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, Bill 21 is still ongoing and more people should be talking about it, so I'm really excited for the event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like honestly, like I haven't heard news about Bill 21 in like a while. So I'm just wondering like what's going on about that? Like is it still something that's like worth talking about?
Yeah. So, my obvious question is, of course, it's something to be talked about. And I do want to begin by saying, like, I'm not an expert in like the field of law, or like I'm not a policy oriented or a policy trained person. But I am someone who's implicated in very obvious ways, but also in more subtle ways. Just as a racialized woman, and as a Quebec citizen, like I'm naturally implicated. But yeah, so Bill 21, just for a brief, kind of reminder, it was introduced in 2017, 2018, I believe, and it bans Canadians working in the public sector from wearing any religious symbols, which includes the hijab, the turbans or kippas, and the ban was challenged by the Canadian Civil Liberation Association and the National Council for Canadian Muslims, and of course by thousands of Canadian citizens as well. And it's worth talking. And so it's been tabled, but it's effectively still ongoing. And even if the situation of the bill, hopefully in recent months, kind of um, comes to a halt, the debate around it is still really there. And it's still like really embedded in Quebec society, this idea of secularism and this idea of religious neutrality. It's really embedded in Quebec culture. And so the ideology behind it is still always going to be there, unless we actively have these conversations. And it's really important to talk about it because the bill is inherently unconstitutional, right? It actually gives a really dangerous precedence for the government to be able to interfere in Quebec citizens' lives. And by allowing the Quebec government to force people to dress and behave contrary to their own personal, spiritual, or religious beliefs is just targeting racialized communities and immigrant communities or even like Quebec communities. And we can't pretend that Bill 21 isn't an attempt of state control, and controlling communities that are already at risks. Um, and one of the most harmful, I think, effects, or maybe not the most, I don't want to do a hierarchy, but one of like the more harmful effects of Bill 21 is the effect on the youth communities. And so, there's a current organization, I think they're called Bélier Solidaire, and it's headed by a group of students and alma maters who experienced really nasty anti-Black, xenophobic, and Islamophobic treatment from high school teachers, specifically in HB Henri Bourassa High School. But this happens every day and in so many different high schools in Montreal, um, specifically in low income areas as well. And I'm really grateful for this movement, and I've been following them. And the reason why I'm really grateful is because it shows us that the youth are hyper aware of the social inequities that put them at risk and put them at a disadvantage. And they're brilliant students and they're really capable of articulating the injustice in that. And so there's a generation of students who are about to enter the workforce, who are about to enter the public sector, many of whom are Muslim and Jewish and Sikh and racialized. And we can't minimize the psychological toll that this will have on them because we're essentially telling like really brilliant young women like, well, you might be qualified, you might have worked like tooth and nail for this, but because of your spiritual belief, you'll be banned from doing this. And but worry not. All you have to do is essentially behave contrary to what you believe, to your personal belief
Hmm.
and to your own will. Um, so it's really dehumanizing because we're kind of stripping people of their ability to make decisions for themselves, which is a constitutional right, and to freely make decisions about their own lives, the way they dress, and so yeah, like I think I'm considering it even more seriously in my own personal life as I see this group of young people and this new generation who are gonna kind of like take the lead on a lot of social movements and how articulate they are. And I'm thinking of how it's going to be on them when, if they want to, they aspire to work in the public sector.
Hmm. Yeah, it's clear
Yeah.
that this bill, while it may promote secularism, it has, maybe an intended or unintended effect on specific groups of people. And like, I'm really happy that we're still talking about it. So I know that tomorrow there's an event which is linked in this video, by the way, for everyone who's watching. Actually, also for everyone who's watching, if you have any questions you want to ask Sarah, feel free to do so. She's here for that. But yeah, so you are organizing an event tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so I'm organizing it in my capacity as a research assistant for Michelle Hartman in the Islamic Studies department at McGill University. So they're the ones actually hosting it, and I'm helping organizing it. So they're hosting the annual event to commemorate the massacre in the Centre Islamique du Québec that happened on January 29th, 2017. And yeah, so the discussion essentially will feature authors of the recently published book, Modération et Extrémisme, Regard critique sur la loi 21. And they'll be reflecting on the implications of the policy and of regulating and policing religious practice, but also the way people dress and the gendered aspects of that. And they'll essentially be challenging the current and ongoing decades long debate on secularism in Quebec. And it will be a bilingual conversation. So the book is published in French, and it's written in French, obviously. And so we'll have translators on standby in the Zoom. We'll have a couple of people, myself included, who can like just translate on the spot, but they will be speaking in English mostly and maybe like switching to French here and there. So if you're Francophone or Anglophone, everyone is welcome, and we'll be sure to be accommodating. And I think it's really nice that it's bilingual because it kind of reflects the politics of Quebec and of Montreal specifically. Um, but yeah, so the book is really interesting, and they talk about the racialization of Islam. They talk about Orientalism and yeah, like the state involvement in private lives and things like that. So it should be really interesting, and I'm really excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I already signed up. And people still have time to sign up, right?
Yeah, they still have time to sign up, and then it closes like 1 hour before the event.
Hmm.
So tomorrow at 10. And then after that, it'll still be available as like like a Facebook Live that people
Hmm.
can tune into, but you just won't be able to be inside the Zoom, like and like ask questions and stuff. Although if you ask in the Facebook post of the Facebook Live, I could raise it to the speakers. But yeah.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Cool. So I had another question. I was just wondering, so, these past few years, I've heard some people um, actually be positive towards Bill 21. They say, oh, it's good that like people should not be presenting their like spiritual beliefs in the clothes that they wear. Like, what's your response to that?
Yeah, I think like first and foremost, Bill 21 isn't just about secularism. And I think people like aren't really grasping that inherently it's a xenophobic act. And it really will set a dangerous precedent that the government can interfere in citizens' personal lives. And yeah, ironically, one of the proponents or the arguments for Bill 21 is that religion is a personal belief and therefore should be reserved to the private life or the private sector and divorced from the public sector. But ironically, in implementing Bill 21, they are effectively collapsing the divide between private and public because they're allowing the public to interfere with the private.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's natural for the private to be externally expressed in public settings. It's naturally like it's really natural to see like our everyday values and how they are kind of informed by our personal beliefs. And it's silly or it's ridiculous to pretend otherwise. It's ridiculous to pretend that people's private beliefs don't get externalized in different ways. But
Mm-hmm.
because the way that Islam has been perceived over the years, the visual marker of this particular value or virtue has been really racialized and, you know, to a certain extent criminalized because of how Muslims are being treated in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. I had a question from Corey. And well, actually, two questions. So the first one is, how can we inform ourselves more about Bill 21?
Well, you can start by coming to the event tomorrow. I think that
Of
would be a
course.
good start. You know, start reading about it and, you know, start reading it from Muslim authors. You know, there's so many op-eds by Muslim authors who've expressed kind of their disbelief and their indignation of about what's happening. And the book is also a really good place to start because they really like break it down. I believe the National Council for Canadian Muslims also have a website where they break down Bill 21 and the legal efforts. They have an amazing team, a legal team over there that are really, you know, spearheading some of the legal efforts to combat Bill 21.
Mm-hmm. And the other question is, how can we actively contribute towards fighting Bill 21?
So again, I'm not heading any of the like anti-Bill 21 initiatives, but the Canadian the Council for Canadian Muslims have a bunch of resources that are available for ways that you can contribute, either I think financially by donation, by don't like helping them financially and legally battle Bill 21. And I think also just kind of speaking up about these things, like, you know, like you said, Sam, like a lot of people do think it's a positive for, you know, Quebec society. And I think by being like, no, like it's actually not like interfering in people's personal lives is never okay, even if it's under the guise of secularism, and getting informed on how Quebec has a really long history of harming marginalized communities. And they still haven't, you know, they still haven't paid reparations to Indigenous communities. You know, my I go to McGill, and McGill is on unceded Indigenous territory, and you know, there's a lot of reparations that need to be made. And I think, you know, get being informed of how we live, like the land that we're on, where we're having these discussions, that history of colonial theft would be a good place to start because all of these struggles are related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean like Legault, I don't even think Legault like recognizes like institutional racism. We have a long way to go. But yeah, like I'm really excited about the event tomorrow. Definitely like I think everyone should go. Like I'm sure it's gonna be super interesting. And yeah, I was just wondering, do you have any other comments to share?
Yeah, I did want to talk a bit about how it's a mishap. Like, I wanted to talk about the aspect of religious neutrality, because I think that's something that a lot of people bring up that are pro Bill 21. You know, I think inherently it's actually a misapplication of religious neutrality because, you know, the Canadian principle of religious neutrality holds that the government has to remain neutral on issues of religion or theology by neither favoring or disfavoring a particular belief. And practically, when we implement Bill 21, then we're actually like disfavoring specific religious groups. And yeah, and I also always found it really weird how obsessed people here are on like about Islam, like Islam in general, or just religion and this whole secularism thing, because secularism isn't about creating neutral spaces. It should be about protecting people from being unjustly judged or treated on the basis of religion. But that's not how the discourse of neutrality is being employed. It's really instrumentalized to harm marginalized people, and this obsession with creating neutral spaces has become just a way to enact harm. And I think, like, again, like as a Quebec citizen, I'm more concerned in creating safe spaces. I'm more concerned in like physically safe spaces. Or like, I wonder where we would be if we invested half of what we do for Bill 21 on things like building safe housing for homeless people, or implementing safe procedures for people suffering from mental crises, or drug addiction. Like we don't have any of that, but we're investing so much in this inherently flawed and racist idea of secularism and religious neutrality.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, honestly, like when people talk about how like the clothes that we wear, like, have a risk of like, expressing ideas that we're not totally in agreement with. I'm like, okay, but some people have like really harmful ideas and they just wear like, a shirt, pants, like, it doesn't always show up on your clothes.
Yeah,
Like if people want to fight seculars, like if they want to promote secularism or like safe spaces, you know, it goes beyond clothes. Like I think clothes,
right.
it's a little too superficial.
Superficial. Yeah.
Yeah, and it targets like specific groups of people for like no good reason. So,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what makes me uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
Uh
having me.
thank you for answering my questions, Corey's questions. And yeah, I can't wait for the event tomorrow.
Yeah. See you there. All
Yeah.
right. It's good to see you.
All right. See
Bye.
you, Sarah. And yeah, for everyone who's watching, the event is in the description of this video, so feel free to sign up. And if you don't have time to sign up, you can just go on the live when it shows up at the time of the event tomorrow at 11 a.m. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. I hope you're chilling and having a good time. Okay. See you.